Good afternoon. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum. For the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world here on this Monday. Of course, long weekend over the weekend, I should say. Long days over the weekend, and getting into Mondays sometimes can be chaotic out there. And of course, this week, the Fed is meeting. So that's where all eyes are here in the business world. And we'll get you updated on all that with stocks we're paying attention to, the Market Watch, and national and local stories that you need to know. Here at the beginning of the week, of course, Fed's meeting. We'll have an answer on Wednesday. A quarter-point rate cut is already priced into the market. Will we get a half point? Probably not, but that quarter point is built in already. And with knowing that, going into here on Monday, as we just have a couple days of waiting, let's get into it with that Market Watch. And look at this, right? It's exactly kind of how you expect a week where you're expecting good things to happen. Then there's some positive comments on China and their trade talks coming up. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Of course, a Tesla gain today as well. We'll talk about that coming up in stocks we're paying attention to. But right now, everything is up today, right? The Dow Jones is up that 17 points, 45,852. Right now, then, the S&P 500 is up to 29 points to 6613. The Nasdaq's up 183 points, 22,324. That small cap index, the Russell 2K, is up 6 points to 2407. Then Bitcoin, well, down 300 points today, but 115,000 range for it. So there's a slow uptick here over the last week on Bitcoin. 115,027 as of right now for that cryptocurrency out there. And again, once we get the rate cut officially in there, most of the market has that rate cut already built in, the quarter point. We will see some improvement here, of course, on the day of that. And then will we see some sell-off afterwards, right? People taking their profits, something to watch. But our first stock we're paying attention to today, Tesla. Big gain for Tesla today here. 5.53% up for this stock. Why? Did they do something pressure? Is their sales up? No. Elon Musk showed a lot of confidence in Tesla right now. Elon Musk disclosed that he bought on Friday $1 billion worth of shares of the Tesla stocks as well. So that obviously is helping this stock go up today with that announcement on Friday. What that does is that simply shows some faith here that Tesla stock is going to go up, keep improving. The company as a whole, Elon Musk has that confidence. Well, the investors around Tesla also will have that confidence. 5.48% up here for Tesla today. Western Digital is the next stock we're going to pay attention to. Of course, storage drive maker, you've heard of them before. 4.36% up right now. Why? Well, they raised all their prices on every hard drive they make. Yes, they called it, they raised it. Well, they could have blamed tariffs, but they also said, quote, unprecedented demand, unquote, is why instant price increases on their hard drives as of right now as well. So price increases due to unprecedented demand. Well, that means more money in, and Western Digital stock is up 4.43% today. And by the way, this is an all-time high here for Western Digital Corporation, based off of that price increase news and unprecedented demand news from this company. And then finally in this segment, we're going to look at TKO Group Holdings. If you don't know this company, the parent company to the UFC, right? The Ultimate Fighting Championship that just had a fight there over the weekend in San Antonio. They're off this week. Uncle Lou, of course, on the main event comes in, and we talk a lot of UFC there, but this is their parent company. They're also parent company to, of course, WWF, the WWE. Man, I just went old school on you guys. WWE, right? World of Wrestling Entertainment, their parent company. Well, they're up 2.08% right now. They were up over 4% earlier today. And why? Well, they said they would buy back $1 billion in stock. This was a previous authorization that was out there, but they are going through with it. So, like Elon Musk is buying $1 billion of Tesla stock, well, These guys are buying back $1 billion of their stock as well for TKO Group Holdings. They were up 2.16% here today off of that news. Later on, when we come back and do our second look at the market watch, well, we'll look at Whirlpool, Hims and Hers Health, VF Corporation as well. VF is the owner of Vans, North Face. Well, they're selling off one of their brands there, not that one, another one. So we'll look at their stock coming up. But first, let's get into the headlines that happened over the weekend. And one of the reasons for the stock market going up today and being where it's at, well, it's all because the United States and the Trump administration came out and they announced that they have a framework, yes, a framework deal. Stop me if you've heard this before. Well, a deal with China, basically, right? A framework one. And this is all over that TikTok dispute and everything. Obviously, here in the United States, law was passed. TikTok, in order to operate, needs to get under U.S. controlled ownership. China has to sell it at that point. TikTok has been a pawn in the tariff negotiations and wars over the last few months as well, but a framework is in place. Well, we know so because, of course, President Trump went to his social media company and he put a social media post out. He didn't name TikTok specifically, but he said a deal was reached with a, quote, certain company that young people in our country very much wanted us to save. He said they will be very happy, the young people will, as what Trump said in his social media social media site there. Of course, we're talking about True Social. So he also added that he would speak to Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday. So the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent actually announced the agreement. It was the second day of talks with Chinese Vice Premier. There in Madrid is where they were meeting. It also includes discussions about the wider U.S.-China trade dispute and kind of settling that, right, in terms of the tariff side of things. So TikTok, well, looks like it might be saved. A sale might be coming up here as well, and kind of a working out deal. Doesn't mean China can't be part ownership. It's just that a U.S. company has to actually control of the interest of it. So we'll keep our eyes on that and what comes out. In other China news, since we're talking about them, well, China has accused NVIDIA. They did it this morning of violating China's anti-monopoly laws. And then they also said that it would step up scrutiny of NVIDIA, which obviously is escalating tensions with Washington. China is, as these two countries are, held those trade talks there in Madrid. And then the two presidents talking this week on Friday as well. Chinese regulators said a preliminary investigation found that NVIDIA didn't comply with conditions imposed when it purchased the company Mellanox Technologies. That's a network and data transmission company that NVIDIA purchased. The one-sentence statement from the State Administration for Market Regulation that China put out did not mention any punishment, but it did say that it would carry out further investigations in this NVIDIA deal as well. Obviously, a NVIDIA spokesperson came out and they said that, quote, we comply with the law in all respects. We will continue to cooperate with all relevant government agencies as they evaluate the impact of export controls on completion in the commercial markets, unquote. We did no wrong, right? You expect them to say that. If you go back here, regulators in China said in December that they were investigating NVIDIA for suspected violations stemming from the $6.9 billion acquisition of that Mellanox company. That deal was completed in 2020, and that was after the Chinese regulator actually gave conditional approval for NVIDIA to buy that company. Mellanox, by the way, is an Israeli company when they were purchased by NVIDIA as well. So China, continuing to ramp up the kind of that tit for tat against the United States. They just got done meeting in Madrid. President Trump said they're talking on Friday, the two presidents. So you're going to get a lot of these kind of mix and match stories here between the two countries as well as we get closer to Friday. And those guys talking, the president's talking. Now let's kind of go over to Boeing, right? They settled that F-15 strike that was happening last week. Well, now it comes out the FAA is seeking $3.1 million in fines from Boeing all because of those safety violations that we are well documented in 2024 timeframe. And that includes the ones, with that Alaska Airlines jet losing the door plug panel and the panel completely on that flight, mid flight there in January of 2024. So this penalty, it's a proposed penalty, and it's like I said, the violations. The time frame that they put these violations in at was September of 23 through February of 24 as the exact time frames, which we know there was a lot of safety issues from Boeing in those time frames. So obviously, in that time frame, it's that exit door panel coming off on the American Airlines jet as well, among a lot of other safety violations that have come up afterwards that we didn't even know about. Well, back in June, the National Transportation Safety Board said its 17th month long investigation did find that lapses in Boeing's manufacturing and safety oversight, combined with the ineffective inspections and audits by the FAA, well, it led to that door plug blowout. So the FAA did say that they had ineffective inspections and audits on their end of the deal as well, even though they do put a lot of that blame, obviously, on Boeing. The FAA did say on Friday that it identified hundreds of quality system violations at Boeing's 737 factory. That's that factory up in Renton, Washington. And Boeing subcontractor Spirit Aerosystems, of course, which was also did some work with their competitor, Boeing's competitor out there, well, coming back under the Boeing wing in the last couple of years, but also the safety violations there. That factory is over in Wichita, Kansas. So that's the proposal from the FAA as of this morning, and what's happening. And since we're up in that Washington area, of course, Amazon's based up there in the Seattle area, and we know if you drive around town or you get deliveries from Amazon here in Arizona, you see those electric vehicle trucks. Every once in a while with my electric vehicle and I stop and charge on a public station, the Amazon trucks are next to me plugged in and charging as well. Their drivers are just sitting there, right? But we find out here that Amazon, well, they've been testing General Motors Bright Drop electric vans. That's all part of its plan to bring that 100,000 electric delivery vehicles on the road by the end of the decade. So Amazon doing some General Motors testing. They have that relationship with the ones being made down south here as well with Rivian. A little more than a dozen vans are being tested, placing them among the fleet that includes those Rivian electric vans that they're using now. So the company did say, the GM did say that they sold 12 2024 model Bright Drop vans to Amazon back in 2023. Amazon spokesperson did come out and say the company regularly tests various electric options. The Bright Drop testing does not change its plans or its work or its deals with Rivian at all. They're just testing them out there, they claim. Amazon is Rivian's largest investor with a 16% stake in Rivian and has more than 25,000 of those Rivian vehicles actually in the fleet and operational at this time. And so doesn't look like, because obviously that'll affect Arizona a little bit here as Rivian makes those vans down there in the Casa Grande area. So looks like that relationship at least will continue to happen here around Arizona. And I love when companies kind of battle it out there with their tough talk as CEOs. And United Airlines CEO, if you don't know, his name is Scott Kirby. Well, he's actually come out and he predicted in a conference over the weekend that Spirit Airlines is actually soon going to be out of business. It's something that CEOs generally don't say out loud, and he just flat out threw the dagger in there. Here's his quote. "That is a fundamentally broken business model, and the consumer has voted. They are going out of business because consumers do not like their product." That's specifically what Kirby told the moderator there at that airline industry journalist conference there over the weekend. He was followed up by the moderator and asked how he was so confident that Spirit was going out of business. And he said, quote, "Because I'm good at math," unquote. Implying you don't make money unless you have passengers, and passengers are what are going to take. Lack of passengers is what's going to take Spirit Airlines down. Of course, Spirit Airlines filed for their second bankruptcy earlier and have signaled unless they get some cash infusions, they're going to have to shut down operations. And Spirit Airlines, of course, did fight back and go to Twitter, which X, right, of all places you go to. And they said, quote, Scott is finally right about something. It's all about the customers. Our guests love low fares, especially our new Spirit First and Premium Economy options. Maybe that's why United executives can't stop yapping about us, unquote. So I do love the response from Spirit. But Scott Kirby, CEO of United, might be correct on this one here. We'll have to stay tuned and pay attention to what happens with Spirit Airlines. And folks, appreciate you joining us here on this Monday. And we got you updated on some of the follow-up stories over the weekend. When we come back, we'll look at Whirlpool, Crimson Hearst Health, VF Corp. They have Vans, North Face, and another company they're looking to offload. We'll do our market watch as well. Wrap up this show nice and clean here on this Monday. Come back and follow us here and come back. We'll see you in just a second. And we're back here, McCollum on Business Monday edition. Appreciate you joining me here as getting back in the swing of things on a new week. Football has passed us over the weekend. 2 Monday Night Footballs tonight. If you like a lot of Cardinals, ASU talk, of course, Diamondbacks, 2 games out as well. Well, you want to catch the main event here earlier today, live 8 to 10 a.m. here at Robat TV. You catch us live there with your subscription on demand at Robat TV as well. And, of course, free podcast out there on your favorite podcast system. Like and subscribe to free podcast. Get the likes out there and kind of grow that as well. Let people find it as suggestions by you liking it. That's what that does. And now, of course, the YouTube page for all of my shows here at Robat TV. The main event is up there at the YouTube page as well. Free for you to catch it there. This show, live at 11 o'clock. No podcast for this show as of yet, but we do put this up, of course, on demand, Robat TV, and on the YouTube page as well. Just do a quick search. You can find that out there, and it's fun. And I'm going to start up a business X page as well, social media pages as well, kind of link to the stories we talk about and updates out there. So look for that coming up as well. Of course, the pit stop. Well, we changed the format last week, and we did 2 shows, a look back show, meaning all the racing that happened over the weekend. Of course, the Truck Series had their second race of this first round of the playoffs on Thursday night. Xfinity had their first race of their playoffs on Friday night. Cup Series had their third race of the first round. Eliminations happened on a Saturday night. Of course, the pit stop. We'll do our look back show. We'll be up on demand here at Robat TV and then on the YouTube page and the free podcast systems as well. Well, that'll be up tomorrow for you guys there. Of course, later in the week, Thursday this week, we'll do a look ahead show as well, looking into the racing this weekend coming up. And folks, it is playoff times around NASCAR and the racing world. So join us there as well on the YouTube page or free podcast system. And with all that being said, let's get right back into that Market Watch. Basically, it's a good day here on this Monday. Those positive comments on the China trade talks, Tesla's gain with that $1 billion stock purchase that happened there from Elon Musk. Everything's up as we're waiting for the Fed's word here this week. The Dow Jones right now up 8 points. S&P 500 up 25 points. The NASDAQ's up 191 points right now. Russell 2K. That small cap index is up 7 points. And then Bitcoin, well, it's down 261 points right now, but slowly creeping up overall. 115,033 for Bitcoin here today. It started down at the 110, 111, slowly getting back up there. 115,000 is what it's looking at right now for a Bitcoin. Stocks we're paying attention to in this part of the section. Well, Whirlpool is the first stock that we are going to look at. They're down 2.93% here today. The Wall Street Journal came out with a report, and they said that the Whirlpool told the Trump administration that its overseas competitors, well, they might be getting around those tariffs out there. Yes, they might circumvent the tariffs. How are they doing it? Well, Whirlpool told the Trump administration that those overseas competitors are undervaluing their imports in order to get around big tariffs coming into the United States. So Whirlpool telling that to the Trump administration. We find that out from the Wall Street Journal. 2.96% down by Whirlpool right now because of that news. Next up, Hims and Hers Health. We're going to look at, you know them, the the health stock out there. They do a lot of digital work. Well, they're down 2.09% right now as well. Martin Markey, that's the commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, came out and said in a medical journal piece, he came out, this is the commissioner of the FDA, folks. He said that Hims and Hers Super Bowl advertisement was a breach of regulations, is what he said it was. So he's saying they broke regulations in that. Well, Hims and Hers Health down 2.07% right now off of that FDA commissioner news in that medical journal piece that came out. And then finally, VF Corp is what we're going to look at. Yes, down 0.54% right now. These guys own Vans. They own North Face, and they're down today. Well, they also used to own, well, shortly, the Dickies clothing brand. They are selling the Dickies clothing brand to a private equity firm. $600 million in cash is the value of Dickies. VF Corporation down today with the news of that $600 million sale of Dickies clothing brand for this company. 0.67% down for them here today. And isn't that amazing? They're getting the cash influx here, right? But Dickies brand must have some value if a private equity firm is willing to pay that much money for that company out there, right? Whew, it's a lot of money for Dickies, in my opinion, out there. And let's get back into the stories here as well. And, you know, we talked a lot about the artificial dyes that the government doesn't want in the foods anymore, right? The Trump administration health people want that out of there. We're talking about that red dye number 5 and a couple other ones out there. And I found this interesting story here, specifically about PepsiCo, right, and their side, because you, in our simple mind, well, my simple mind, I shouldn't include you in that. It should be easy to make food without artificial dyes in it. Apparently, it's not that easy, right? And it's, you know, so now Doritos, Cheetos, for instance, they're trying to figure out how to swap out those artificial dyes and then put colorful vegetables and spices in their place. One, because of the government pressure on that, but two, just to make the food a little bit healthier. And PepsiCo has taken on this challenge here at their global headquarters for food research and development. So PepsiCo's trying to rework the recipes for the nacho cheese Doritos, for instance, Cheetos Puffs, Flamin' Hot Cheetos. They've been working on this here for a while, right? So it's easy to use the red dye, 40, yellow number 5, yellow number 6, for instance, to get those artificial colors. Well, the snacks are now going to be colored with a mix of beets, relishes, paprika, annatto, I don't know what that is, and turmeric as well as what they're utilizing. This is all, as I said, because Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the FDA, they've been pushing food makers to fade out artificial dyes by the end of 2026. This is all that Make America Healthy Again pledge that's in there in the government. What Pepsi, they haven't just started this recently. They've actually been working on naturally colored snacks for years and getting to that side. They're going to charge more, obviously, for them and everything. But can they get the taste is the bigger question, right? So natural dyes, they actually come with challenges for food makers. Like I said, in my simple mind, you switch over to natural flavors and it tastes the same. It's not that easy, right? So here's what PepsiCo said, right, in their food people. Quote, they're sensitive to light, meaning the natural dyes. They're sensitive to oxygen. So what we really have to figure out is a way to make them stable together. So when you experience what you want when you open the bag and in your pantry as well. So yeah, these they have different right longevities, shelf lives, if you will, and not just the taste side of it there. So there is no timeline shared yet by PepsiCo for those naturally colored Doritos and Cheetos. It's working on versions of snacks with no added colors or flavors that will come out later this year. It's what we're hoping for some of them. They did say the company, PepsiCo, has gotten great feedback on the nacho cheese Doritos with no added colors, but they did say that they're just a little bit off in the taste measures, so they're trying to dial those in. So that is something being worked on out there. I've always said you got to come out with these natural favors. One is the problem if you have the cheap or the cheaper natural dye or the more expensive natural dyes compared to the more cheap, artificial dye ones. People will always go with the cheaper ones coming up here. So you got to actually get rid of the lower ones and get those natural ones a bit cheaper out there. But that's going to affect also shelf life. People don't realize that. They won't probably for the good, right? They won't be able to sit in your pantry for years in that time frame. So interesting follow up story there with PepsiCo and their plans and what they're trying to do. And if you guys remember way back in 2016, seems like another time frame, right? Well, Arizona voters approved a law back then that ties the minimum wage to inflation. We do know, right? We see all the inflation reports from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And we saw a recent one here what was it, last week or the week before on that, where inflation year over year, it hit 2.9% in August. So that was about a half a percentage point from July. We talk about those reports all the time, at least monthly here on the program. But what does that mean for Arizona, obviously, as we're going into this August reporting timeframe? Well, this new report here for that August number means the minimum wage, statewide, well, it's going to jump 45 cents coming up in 2026. It is going to cross over $15 an hour for the first time with that August Bureau of Labor Statistics reporting. The city of Tucson, well, it already has a $15 an hour minimum wage. Flagstaff, by the way, it's at $17.85 for its minimum wage up there thing. So because of that state law, they're going to climb as well come January a little bit higher on that number. The State Office of Economic Opportunity says there's about 230,000 Arizonans whose earnings are below that $15 mark, naturally, because right now the minimum wage is below 15 for most of the state. Inflation in the Phoenix area was more than a percentage point lower than the national average over that same BLS reporting period in August there. So minimum wage getting a little bit, 45-cent hike here coming up in the new year. So businesses plan for that coming up, absolutely. And then a local company out of Scottsdale, we told you they were going to do their IPO. Well, it came out on Friday. We're talking about Black Rock Coffee Bar right now. And it was valued at $1.27 billion after its shares rose 32.5% above that initial public offering price on Friday when it hit the market. So basically, there's a big, healthy investor appetite for consumer-focused companies in that IPO market, because a lot of the IPO market is generally, especially recently, favored toward tech and tech-dominant companies. So this is our second, successful consumer company that's hit that market out there. Shares of the company there, BlackRock, as I said, based out of Scottsdale, opened at around $26.50. So the offer price was $20 early off market, right? The initial price hit the market at $26.50. BlackRock Coffee did raise $294.1 million in their initial offering. They sold 14.7 million shares of their stock. And as I said, the first IPO by a U.S. restaurant since Kava did it back in 2023. A lot of tech stocks in the IPOs right now. BlackRock was founded back in 2008. It operates 158 corporate owned stores across 7 U.S. states. They want to get to 1,000 stores by 2035. And gosh, there's four within a stone's throw out where I am, out in the East Valley there. And so we got you that on Friday's stock market and stuff. I believe we have the graph here for BlackRock in terms of what their stock is doing here today. And look, it's there at $5, 5.85% up here today as well. 29.14 for BlackRock here on its second official trading day. I believe they're on the New York Stock Exchange, if I remember correctly here. So obviously initial price 20. They hit the market there at what did I say? 26.40. I'm sorry, $26.50 is what they hit the market for, and now today 29.14. So uptick here for Scottsdale-based BlackRock Coffee Bar and their success, at least with their IPO, right, coming up. And we'll wrap up today's show with, hey, if you got kids growing up, don't know what they want to do, looking for a good, stable job, well, there's a stable job out there, but it's also shortages continue in this specific field. And I don't think it's a secret. I think it's been for a while, but Arizona is facing that critical statewide nursing shortage that's been happening for the last couple of years. Many experienced nurses are leaving the stressful hospital and specifically that ER environment, but they're looking for less demanding roles in outpatient clinics, aesthetic nursing, or even non-hospital settings to achieve better work-life balances out there. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic put a lot of stress on this industry, right? It led to a lot of burnout. And then a lot of the nursing workforce is actually aging out of doing that work and getting older as well. So a lot of significant factors here. Not enough young people are going into this field either. And it's not just affecting big cities, but also urban and rural hospitals have severe staffing shortages. And specifically emergency rooms, but hospitals in general. So where are what's the problem? Where are the nurses kind of going right now? Well, a lot of the nurses, they're seeking more manageable schedules. They're opting for 8 to 5 or clinic-based work because of that 24/7 demands of hospital inpatient roles. Especially that 12, right, 3 days on, 12, 4 days off, and then working the overtime in those hospital environments. As I said, it's the aging of these nurses as they get older. But the big thing lately is, a lot of workplace violence in hospitals, right, with people coming in and those types of things that are happening around the hospitals as well. So a lot of them leave based off of that environment there. And then, as I told you, a lot of them are just older right now, right? A significant portion of Arizona's nursing workforce is over the age of 40. The national trend of many nurses retiring in the coming years, so you just have natural retirements coming the way in this industry. So as I told you earlier, a lot of these nurses are pursuing those careers in the aesthetic services. That's the Botox filler injections. Those obviously are a lot less stress, a lot of higher pay in those industries as, consumers pay for that, not under insurance side. Some nurses work in concierge or home-based nursing roles because that helps them get more fulfilling one-on-one patient experiences as opposed to that grind of in and out hospital stays and things like that. So a lot of negatives. So I think it's interesting, this shortage continues to happen, but hospitals have to figure out how to get their nurses treated a little bit better so they stay longer, especially with the aesthetic side, right? More appealing to a lot of people. But also if you have kids coming up and they're interested in the medical side, get into that nursing because that pay, it's going to be needed as, of course, the boomers continue to grow older. It's going to be needed, and it pays well as well, and things to that effect. They just got to work on that side to kind of keep people there happier longer from there. And I often tell a lot of people that go, I don't know what to do with my life. It's like, go into nursing, whether it be a clinical role or if you want to try the hospitals for a few years. That's the way to go at that point. Of course, here on this Monday, Always looking to give some people some industries to go into. AI is not going to take over the nursing role, folks. We need nurses all of the time out there. President Trump actually advocates to end the quarterly earnings reports. That news is out there today as well. And it's good time. The Trump DOJ is being sued by the prosecutor, Maureen Comey, where she was said that it was an illegal firing by the Trump DOJ after she lost that Diddy case. When she was fired, of course, the old FBI director's daughter in the government as well, now suing the company. And Alphabet becomes the fourth company to reach $3 trillion market cap officially today. About 45 minutes ago is when they officially hit that $3 trillion market cap for Alphabet. So we'll talk probably about that tomorrow and so much more. Come back and join us. McCollum on Business, live at 11 o'clock. On Demand, Robat TV. On Demand on YouTube for free there. Check us out. Share us with your friends. We'd appreciate it. We'll see y'all tomorrow, everybody. Have a great Monday night.